grow, it can only grow as much as you're willing to grow. So come and grow with my special guest today. She's a high performance business leadership coach, Carol Boston, and we are going to have a great time on today's AMPLiFY Business Edge show. So if you want to radically increase your confidence, eliminate self-doubt, and make better business decisions, but not emotional ones, which we all are very much guilty of, and become much more effective at communications, come and learn with us, because today we're going to talk about all of the empowering questions to create limitless opportunities with Carol. So Carol, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for having coming on as a guest today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So Carol, you're coming all the way from Fort Lauderdale, which is literally crisscross from where I am up in not northern Canada, but southern West BC of Canada.
Oh yeah, we have very different weather. Even though you had some hot weather last week, I tell people we have summer, more summer, and less summer. And right now we're in more summer. And so I posted on Facebook. Somebody says, what's the weather like? Because they know I'm your weather girl, right? I love the weather.
Oh.
And they said, what's the weather like in Florida? And I said, if you want to know what the weather like is in Florida in the summertime, go take a hot shower, don't dry off, and just put your clothes on. It's air you can wear.
It's air you can wear. Well, that's funny. But I thought that you had a tropical storm coming your way. No? Or did that come and go?
It's already passed us by.
I'm way behind the times.
Yeah.
So you are very much like us Canadians. Us Canadians, for whatever reason, we're obsessed with the weather as well. And it's always a topic of conversation. It's like the filler, right? Whenever we have nothing to say, we talk about the weather.
Listen, I talk about the weather even if I have something to say.
Even if you have something to say, yeah.
I told you that I'm dog sitting this week for a good friend, this wonderful German Shepherd. She's amazing, and her name is Doppler, like the Doppler weather radar.
Oh my goodness! Well, she's your best friend.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's too funny. That's too funny. So I'm really looking forward to our conversation today, and I know that our viewers are as well. But I have to ask you, you are known as the Queen of Reframe. So how did that happen? How did you become the Queen of Reframe?
Well, back in my history is that I'm a collegiate and professional tennis player, and who then spent 26 years very successfully in sales for Fortune 100 companies, ATT, Sprint, and Paychex. And there I was in the summer of 2014, sold $70 million in revenue, walked the stages, got the awards. I could do this in my sleep. So I thought I had it made until the day I got that phone call. And they told me they were cutting my territory by 80%. I'm like, oh no, 80%? I've been building this territory for 6.5 years. Well, you didn't have to tell me twice. I thought they were setting me up to fail. Now, I was a weird salesperson, Susan. I love large corporate structure, and I'm a rule follower. Not true for most salespeople. But a friend of mine whispered in my ear about an opportunity at a small company. I thought, well, I don't know what I don't know, and off I went. After 2 interviews, they hired me. They doubled my base salary, plus commissions, and they gave me a director title. I could just see the potential, right? Right. So there I was 6 weeks into the job, and I was on vacation. I had negotiated that in my contract up front. Now, I was doing at the time what I thought a good employee was supposed to do. I was staying in touch with my boss, the CEO, while I was on vacation. I do not advocate that for my clients anymore. What does Maya Angelou say? When you learn better, you do better. But there I was. And I got this email asking my opinion on something. So I replied right back. And I waited, because he usually replies right back, and he didn't. 12 hours later, we come in from dinner and cocktail. Ding, there goes my phone. It says, Carol Boston, you've got mail. And here's what it said. It said, Carol, comma, that's what you really think? And it had 5 question marks behind it. Then it said, do not come into this office on Monday. When your vacation is over, you're done here.
Wow.
I was like, what? I don't get fired. Did I just get fired in an email? Right? So I came back to Florida, and I had an interview the very next day, and I was flown all over this country sometimes 3 and 4 interviews deep. Think about it. These companies were investing in airfare and hotel for me, sometimes 3 and 4 times over, to crickets. And I thought, how ironic that I can sell $70 million of revenue for somebody else and I can't close a deal to get myself a job.
Right.
Now, faith is my foundation. And I'd been at this many, I was depleting my 401k.
Mm-hmm.
And so what would compel me to do that? That's an empowering question. You notice I did not ask why. What would compel me?
Right.
And my second book that's coming out next year is going to be called You Can't Read the Label When You're Inside a Jar. And we're all in a jar, right?
Good one. I love that.
And there I was in my jar, and all I could see is that I'm a buttoned up corporate salesperson. That's all I could see. So faith is my foundation, and that's where I go. So in my prayer time one day, I was like, God, I really was yelling at this point. I'm like, look, you created me. You know, I'm not cut out to be an entrepreneur. I do not want to own my own business. You got to help me find a good job. And Susan, literally 2 weeks to the day from that prayer, out of the blue, I get an email from a woman that I met one time out of town at a conference. She and I must have chatted 30 minutes. She gifted me a $3,500 ticket to go to Los Angeles to study at Guerrilla Business School. So I tell people, my God has a sense of humor, because what is Guerrilla Business School? It's a foundational school for entrepreneurs.
Right.
So I figured, I don't know what I don't know. And what I'm doing certainly isn't working. And off I went. And the very first thing I learned when I got there was what caused me to name my next book. You can't read a label when you're inside a jar. And we're all in a jar. That's why everybody needs a good coach. The second thing I learned was about empowering questions. And I was amazed. This was in the summer of, in May of 2015. And I was determined to master them because they are so valuable and so powerful. And I've been working to master them for the last 6 years. And I studied with the best, right, in leadership and empowering questions. Nirka, John Maxwell, Michael Strasner. And so the moniker really stuck, Queen of Reframe stuck this past fall. So I was actually in December, a friend of mine sent me a Zoom link. She said, I'm going on Facebook Live and I have a great guest. You want to come hear my guest speak? I'm like, I'm having lunch. I guess I will. So I hop on. Don't know the speaker from Adam. And the speaker says, those of you who are in the Zoom room, would you please tell us who you are and what you do? So it got to be my turn. And I said, my name is Carol Boston. And before I could say anything else, this speaker leans in and she goes, you're the Queen of Reframe. And I'm thinking, how did you know that? Right? She goes, you know how to do those empowering questions. And I'm like, where have you heard about me? Now I want you to think about this. This was the second week of December. She had heard me at the end of September, early October. I was interviewed by a lady out of Ireland named Trish Grimes. And she remembered. So it was so powerful that 2.5, 3 months later, she remembered. And I said, that's part of my brand.
Yeah.
And I teach on it. In 2019, I was hired 6 times inside American Express to teach and train. And every one of those trainings included empowering questions. I have seen it change not only my life, but my clients' lives. They're amazing. And that's how I became known as the Queen of Reframe. You can bring me any challenge and I can quickly reframe it for you and give you a new mindset on it and give you some action steps to take you from where you are to where you want to go.
Oh, that's amazing. What an incredible story. And to be remembered that much later about something, that certainly tells you that you're on the right path and you're doing the right thing, because I can't think of anybody who couldn't use your help and with that reframing process, because we're all very guilty of it, of just facing problems from the wrong perspective and not reframing it to make it into an opportunity of what's possible, right?
Well, I love that you said what's possible, because here's a writer downer for your audience. The most powerful of all empowering questions is what else is possible?
Yeah. And
to make it even more powerful, you want to say, what else is possible today? Because empowering questions are specific and they're time bound. And I don't know if this is a good opportunity, if you want me to hop into a little teaching or if that's later down in the talk or what you want me to do.
Go for it. Let's segue right into that.
Absolutely. So empowering questions help you reframe from focusing on what isn't working. How many people focus on what isn't working, right?
Yeah.
That's how they make mountains out of molehills. They think about it, tell about it, tell their friend, think about it, tell about it, tell their spouse, and it becomes the only thing they think about. And it becomes so big. So empowering questions help you reframe from focusing on what isn't working, and they open you to opportunities you've never even considered. Here's what most folks don't understand. Your greatest opportunities and blessings are right outside of your jar. You just don't know how to ask the right questions to get to them.
Yeah.
If the answer was in your jar, you would already know it, right? You would already know. So here, I'm going to give you a few golden nuggets. Write them down. An empowering question never, ever, ever starts with the word why. Why brings in defensiveness, which brings in the ego, which brings in emotions. And when emotions go up, intelligence goes down. It's true for every human being. And, I teach and train on this, and I have people, Susan, that go, oh, yeah, Carol, man, I hate it when I get so angry and I say things I don't mean. But here's the thing. As human beings, we've decided that anger is a negative emotion and that happiness is a good. We labeled it, right? Even though emotions just are. They just are. Think about the lady who goes to Las Vegas to have a good weekend. She's having a great time, right? But she wakes up the next morning in bed with some dude she doesn't know and a ring on her finger. And she's like, her emotions were out of control. So you can be out of control even when it's a good emotion. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes perfect sense. And I would love to ask our audience to, leave a message and kind of think about how many times do you face a challenge with the word why?
Mm-hmm.
And how has that worked out for you? Right? So I would love to hear from our audience. But yeah, it makes total sense, Carol.
Absolutely. Put it in the chat. I'll give you a quick example of how powerful. I'll give you two examples of how powerful it is if you don't ask why. Why is never going to get you the answer that you want. I had someone say that to me the other day. I thought my child was just asking me why all the time because they wanted more information. No, they're not getting the answer that they want.
Right.
Think about it. So they keep asking.
Yeah.
So there I was in seventh grade. I had my report card in my hand, 5 A's and a B. I was so excited for my dad to come home from work. And my dad comes home and I give him my report card. Now, maybe from my accent, you can tell I'm from the Deep South, but he's really from the Deep South. And he looks at me and he goes, now, Carol, why'd you get a B?
Oh, no, I knew that was coming.
What do you think I did? I got defensive. I go, wait a minute, Dad.
Of course.
I got 5 A's.
Yeah.
He looked down his nose at me again. He said, that is not what I asked you. Why'd you get a B? So what do you think I did? I got defensive again. And I said, I used my older brother. I go, but David got 2 C's and a D. And here's what my dad said to me. He said, we expect a lot more out of you, young lady. Now, how I heard that as a 13-year-old is that I had to be perfect to earn love. Yeah, that impacted every area of my life. Overgive, over-deliver in relationships, become a workaholic until I learned to reframe that story. Now, if my dad had asked me an empowering question, I probably wouldn't be here in front of you today, right?
Right.
Here's an empowering question. Listen, if you don't have children, your parents probably did this to you too. So think about it. If my dad had said to me, Carol, what one thing, remember we want it to be specific, what one thing can you do next semester, it's time bound, to improve upon that grade? Do you think we'd had a completely different conversation? Yeah. And if you allow the child to think up the answer, they're way more likely to do it. Way more. I don't know.
I totally get that, but I'm going, I think I would still be upset that he wasn't giving me accolades for the 5 A's and focusing on that B wasn't good enough.
Hey, they were tough on me, but when I went to college, I was on the dean's list many semesters, and I was a member of Mortar Board, which is a very exclusive, high-end place to be. But they were doing the best they knew with what they had, right?
Well, exactly, right. But yeah, I love how that reframe practice could have served you so much better.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and definitely gotten you into that frame of mind of opening up, like we said before, the possibilities of what needs to change in order to change the current circumstance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'd like to share a quick client story. So back in 2018, I had an office. And so the lady, my client, came to see me. The first time she was on time. Next time she was a little late. Then she's a little late. By the 4th time, she's seriously late. Now, I'm the shake your hand, give you a hug girl. Like, I have missed that so much during COVID. And she came in, I gave her a big hug, and I said, sit down and get out your pen and paper. We cannot miss this coaching opportunity. And she kind of looked at me because we don't typically start like that, but I didn't want to miss this opportunity. Here's something your entire audience can write down. The first thing I told her to write down was, how I do anything is how I do everything.
Right. Mm-hmm.
How I do anything is how I do everything. Now, she's a human being. You and I just talked about this. What did she want to do when she came? She wanted to give me some defensive story about why she was late. I didn't ask her why she was late. I said, I don't need a story. This is not about you being late. She said, it's not? I said, no. She said, what's it about? And I asked her a very empowering question. I said, it's about where else in your life are you not showing up for you on a daily basis? And she went, what? I said, write it down. Where else in your life are you not showing up for you? So she writes it down and she kind of grins at me. She goes, is that my homework, Carol? I said, honey, that's your homework ad nauseum. I want it on your dashboard, on your mirror, on your refrigerator. Now here's the thing, folks, here's a caveat. You put your empowering question out to God in the universe 6 to 8 times a day out loud, and you go right back to doing what you're doing. It's not your job to try to figure it out because the answer is outside your jar.
Yeah.
You're saying, I'm open to hearing, seeing, saying, or doing something I've never thought of before.
And I think that's really critical. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think that really needs to resonate and sink in.
Yes.
Because I'm hearing, but I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what to do. And so we have to literally program our brains to get rid of the but and just allow and wait, sit and wait for the answers to come instead of us having to work and try to run after those answers. Is that accurate?
It's totally accurate. And here's the thing I tell people all the time. I believe that God only gave me a lamplight for my feet because my job is to take the next step and trust in the process. And then I take the next step. So often we want to figure out the whole picture. You don't have to know the how if you know your why. If you know what's driving you, what it's inspiring you to do what you do. We don't have time for this story, but I sold my house 2 years ago, July 30th. Been in that house for 26 years, thought I was going to live there forever. I loved my routine. I love stability. God saw fit for me to move 9 times in 18 months while trying to grow a business.
That's
and
rough.
A lady that she's the president of, I'm on the board of the Women's Executive Club down here. Great group of ladies. So we were sitting on her patio back in March, I think February, having a cocktail one night. And she says, I don't know how you've done it, Carol. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, I've watched you go through this for 18 months. I've never heard you complain one time. I said, because my job is to take the next step and trust in the process. Get rid of that. There is no but. But's a contradiction. You're either going to trust in the process, right? Or you're going to try to hold on. But here's the thing. People are holding on so tightly to yesterday's blessings. They're missing today's miracles because their hands aren't open to receive. Makes sense?
Yeah, definitely. Right.
So there I was with that client 2 or 3 months later. I don't remember how many weeks it was. And we're working on a business challenge and her eyes fly wide open. And I said, what? She said, that's another place I'm not showing up for me. Exactly. She would have never gleaned that if I'd said, why are you late? She would have never gleaned that if I hadn't given her that question and she consistently put it out. We doubled her income in our business in 6 months because we were able to start replacing those areas of self-sabotage and poor habits with good leadership habits and principles.
And it's amazing how subtle that is. It's very insidious, isn't it? Like it's such a subtle thing. And it's part of our normal day, the way we live.
Yes.
And to recognize, and I so appreciate you talking about this, Carol, because it's so important to recognize how those little subtle things can make a huge dramatic difference in not only our professional lives, but also our personal lives, that, like the whole kit and caboodle, right?
Oh, pretty much every one of my clients will tell you that their business, not only did their business grow, but they grew personally. It changed every area of their life because that's why I'm all about leadership and personal accountability. And you said it at the beginning, your business is only going to grow as much as you grow. My last stint in corporate America, I watched these young kids come in, and let's say the first year they sold $100,000 in revenue, and the next year they sold 100, and then all of a sudden they sold $300,000. And they're looking at me like, yeah, man, I'm going to be selling $300. I'll make a lot of money. What do you think they did? They went right back to selling $100,000.
Sure. Yeah.
Because they didn't do the foundational work to sustain the growth.
Yeah.
Everybody's heard of a one-hit wonder, right? We hear it all the time.
Right.
And that's what a lot of those kids became. They became that one-hit wonder.
So it's becoming very intentional with our actions and with what the voice that's going on in our heads and what we speak. It's being very intentional about that and making a commitment to making these kinds of reframe changes for long-term positive results.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Go ahead. I was going to say I have so many client stories, but go ahead and ask me your question.
Yeah, well, you had talked about, leadership, and I think we should, let's talk a little bit more about that personal leadership and how does that impact what you do today and what you want to do in the world? Like, is or have you already kind of shared that with us about,
No.
your, yeah. So go ahead and talk a little bit more about that personal leadership part of
when I look back on my history, in some way, shape, or form or another, I had constantly been stepping up into leadership. I didn't know it. For example, when I was in 6th grade in the Deep South, now remember, in the Deep South, there are rules that are spoken and unspoken about how little girls are supposed to behave.
Oh, I bet.
I was the first little girl on the boys' 6th grade baseball team.
Oh, way to go.
My mother was appalled.
I bet.
But I had a cheerleader in my dad, right? Go Carol. And then fast forward 3 years later, I became the very first female. My dad says I'm still the only female. I don't know if I believe him. I'm not going to research it, but I was the first female president of the student council in the history of the school.
Wow.
Right.
And that's sad too. That's so sad to hear that.
It is sad.
Yeah.
Totally sad. And then there's so many stories in between, but then, I became the #1 player and team captain at LSU. That's my alma mater. I'm a fighting tiger, my collegiate tennis career. And was team captain there. So I've always been about personal leadership and accountability. As a matter of fact, in 2017, I was getting my 2nd coaching certification. I won't mention his name. He's a multimillionaire coach to coaches. That's all he does is coach coaches. And we were getting our certification, and there was probably about 100 people on the phone call. This is before Zoom, right? And he says to me, Carol, you're a sales coach. I said, I don't want to be a sales coach. He said, it's the hottest niche with the fewest good coaches, and you are really good. I said, I don't want to be a sales coach. You could hear him kind of go, okay, Carol, what do you want to do? And I said, my ideal client knows and accepts they are 100% responsible for their experience of life. This man groaned so loud, he went, oh my God, Carol, personal development, that sounds like work. Nobody's going to pay for work. Sell them what they want and give them what they need.
Yeah.
I said, I just told you I'm a rule follower. That sounds like bait and switch to me. I'm not going to do that. It took me 2 years to truly understand what it means. What do my clients really want? They want to double and triple the income in their business. They don't know that behind the scenes, we're going to start off working on foundational leadership, right? And
so they're looking for the checklist, the 10-step checklist to, do this, do this, do this. And that doesn't work, right? The work has to happen with personal leadership first, period.
I was listening to Jim speak yesterday, and I'm in a networking group that's run by a multimillionaire. She's one of the only Black females, like at the top ranks of owning a construction company. I mean, it's big, right? And so we're working through Napoleon Hill's book. And what does Napoleon Hill really say? First, you become a millionaire and then you get paid. Because it's about mindset and it's about who you become. Write her down, folks. Become a millionaire and then you'll get paid.
I love that.
It's in your behavior. It's in your consistency. It's in your personal leadership. It's in your mindset. So that's another thing about being the Queen of Reframe. It's about mindset mastery. So it impacts me. It impacts every one of my clients. And I really want to raise up female leaders. Well, and a few good men. I work with a few good men, right? And so there are so many areas of personal leadership to work on. How does it impact my work? One of the things I work with every female on, for sure, is that no is a complete sentence.
Mm-hmm.
We always want to give somebody a story, right? We think we're going to make them feel better or we're going to make ourselves feel better. I have a client. She's actually my social media manager. Then she became a client. And we've been working together maybe 2 months. And she texts me, "Can I talk to you real quick?" I'm like, yeah. What's up? She lives in New York City, third floor walk up, been out on a date. Guy standing down at the end of the stairs said, "Am I coming up to your place or are you coming to mine?" And she said, "Carol, before I started working with you, I would have been hemming and hawing around and trying to figure out what story I could give him because I didn't want him to not like me and blah, blah, blah." She said, "But I looked at him and I just said, no, I don't do that."
Yeah.
And she said, "I went upstairs. I felt more empowered than I had in my entire life." Right? You don't owe people a story.
Right.
Think about
Yeah.
that.
I love that.
That's
Yeah.
about personal leadership, because what else is it about? It's knowing your boundaries and honoring your boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How many times do people put a stake in the ground? Next thing you know, they're picking that stake up and moving it, right? Or they
Mm-hmm.
draw a line in the sand and all of a sudden they're brushing that sand because they're relinquishing that boundary, right? We teach people how to treat us.
That's exactly what was just going on in my head. We teach
Yes,
people how to treat us. Oh, yeah.
we do. Now, most people don't want to take ownership of that.
Yeah.
And most people want to say the problem is the boss, the COVID, the wife, the husband, the kids, the weather. Every time you say the problem is outside of you, you just gave up your power.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, when I walk in a networking event, Zoom or otherwise, and they say, "What do you do?" You know what I did one time? I said, "I help people get what they want." And they said, "How do you do that?" And I said, "Tell me what you want." They couldn't even articulate it. Most people aren't truly clear on really what they want.
Yeah,
How
that's
can you
true.
have something if you don't know what it is?
Yeah. Yeah.
But normally I just say that I help female business owners and a few good men to know their value, own their power, advocate for themselves, so they rise up and become the lion and lioness leaders that they were created to be, right? Resulting in many of them doubling and tripling their income. But I want to really look at that piece in my Limitless Leadership Academy, 7 Steps to an Unstoppable Business. All the work I do with my clients is personalized, it's customized. There's no cookie cutter. But the very first foundational piece, it's called Become the Lion or Lioness Leader. And it's about stepping into who you were created to be, so that I help my clients throw an anchor into their future and they can let go of that story that's holding them in the past. And I think this is really critical for every entrepreneur out there listening. So back in 2018, I had a client, female family lawyer, had owned her own practice for 4 years. And she hired me and we're getting started. So this first piece is about clarity. Do you really know who you were created to be? So I help each client craft different statements. And they're going to own these statements. So one of the ones I crafted for her was, "I'm a powerful CEO of a fast-growing law firm." Susan, she looked at me like I had lost my mind. She said, "My law firm isn't growing. Why the hell you think I hired you?" Right? So when the leap is too big from where they are to who they were truly created to be, I give my private clients, I have 2 phrases that I'll give them to put in front of that. And so that's what I gave her. I don't know if it was 2 months or 3 months. She walks in one day and she's taller than me. I'm looking up at her and she goes, "I'm a powerful CEO of a fast growing law firm." And I was like, yes. If you look at her testimonial on my website, part of her testimonial says, "I got more clients in 6 months of working with Carol than I had in the first 4 years of my practice."
Wow. Wow.
Part of that was owning what? That she had a fast growing law firm. I did my first live talk at the end of February for the Extraordinary Women Who Lunch. This particular past client was one of the co-chairs of the lunch. So after I spoke and I sat down to eat my lunch, she sat down with me. And I said, "So, hey, Cindy, how's business?" And she looked at me, she goes, "Oh my God, I just had to hire another paralegal. I just hired another assistant. I'm thinking about bringing on another attorney." Think about it. This is 2.5 years later, still fast growing. It's powerful work.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. Well, that's absolutely amazing, Carol, hearing your stories. And I know you probably got many, many more. Yeah. We both have been in business a long time and there's lots of stories to share. But how about if you tell us about about the time when you trusted in someone else's vision. Like, I can totally get where, what you're about is trusting ourselves, empowering ourselves, and taking ownership of ourselves and being responsible of ourselves. But many times we listen to too many other people, and we listen to someone else's vision. And so I think you have a story about that, and what happened with that.
I have 3 of those pivotal in my life, and I'm actually in the middle of my 4th one. So I'll give you the 3 and you pick the story, and I'll give you the story.
Okay.
So one of them was how I got a tennis scholarship to college. One of them is how I got from Dallas, Texas to Miami, Florida for an amazing 26-year sales career. And the other one is how I became a professional speaker. So you decide, you pick a story.
Oh, I would love to hear about becoming a professional speaker.
Okay. So there I was. I told you all this entrepreneurship stuff started in 2015 in May. So fast forward to the fall of 2017. I had 2 coaching certificates. I was coaching people. Guess what else I was doing? I was still holding on to 3 services to sell into human resources of large corporations. I was not willing to get out of my freaking jar. Now, I thought I was committed. Here's one of the things I learned. Big writer downer. There's a difference, a big difference between being committed and being convicted, because people decommit every day, don't they? They say, I'm committed to this marriage for life until the day I'm not, right? Or I'm committed to losing this 20 pounds again and again, and then I'm not. But when you're convicted, you will not rest until you get it done. And you understand that your comfort and your conviction and your convenience do not live on the same block. They're not even in the same zip code. So there I was in December at Nova Southeastern University, talking to this lady about my 3 services to help their employees. And she knew me a little bit. So we talked a little bit about my coaching or whatever. Meeting's over. We walk back across campus. She stops and she looks me up and down. And she says, I know what I'm going to do for you, Carol. I said, what? She says, I'm going to hire you. I said, to do what? She said, to speak. I said, to speak? She goes, don't give me that bullshit. You're a speaker. I'm like, who am I speaking to? And she said, I'm going to put you in front of 55 to 60 of the top. Now, remember, I just tried to sell her these HR services. I'm going to put you in front of 55 to 60 of the top HR executives in all of South Florida. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm in the frying pan. I said, when am I doing this? This was December the 9th, 2017. She goes, March, 1st of March. 1st of March? How long am I speaking for? She said, 90 minutes. I said, 90 minutes? She goes, don't give me that. Send me your CV and send me your fees. My fees? Somebody's going to pay me to speak? So as God would have it, it got moved from March to August the 9th, which was a blessing for me. I had just moved into this new office, and I met 2 very unique women in there. One, Lori, became my content writer that helped me with my workshops and my speeches. Brilliant woman. And another one, name was Heather, and she was in what? She was in HR. Now, she wanted me to give a workshop to the HR team at Kaiser University, literally 1 week before Nova. But she wasn't the final decision maker. And that decision maker pushed back on me. It was ridiculous. And Lori finally said, just don't do it. I said, no, I am not going to Nova and getting paid, never having done it before. Kaiser wasn't paying me. I didn't care. I was going to go. It wasn't even the exact same workshop, but I was going to go do it. So on August the 2nd, I go to Kaiser, give the workshop, come back and start preparing for Nova. Get to Nova. Never forget, Thursday morning, 6:45. There we are. My 2 best friends are with me to help me set up. And we walk into the room. Now, I'm going to tell you that the lady who was speaking before me, there was two that day, me and her. She must have had 15 titles behind her name. She's from Canada, speaks French, wrote a book on the brain. I mean, she had all these titles. And then there was Carol Boston. So I walk, and they paid her more money than me because why? She had written a book. That's what they said. I walk in the room, and there's this man with this booming voice, Susan. He goes, from across the room, he goes, Carol Boston. I was like, the lady who hired me looked at him and goes, Barry, you know Carol? He goes, she is the only reason I came today. I thought,
oh my God. Wow.
Barry and I had worked together for 10 years back in the 90s at AT&T. So this other lady was speaking first, and I walked up to help her set up, just to get to know her, be nice, whatever. And she says, so Carol, how long have you been on the circuit? I said, what circuit? She looked at me. She goes, the speaking circuit. I said, oh, I'm not supposed to tell you. She said, why not? I said, last Thursday was my first one. Today is my second one. Now, here's another person who looked at me. Either I lost my mind or Nova lost their mind, because she's got, what, I don't know, 15 years experience, whatever. So she goes first. And to be totally candid, she completely lost the room. There were people at my table going, can I just take a nap? I was like, no, be nice, be nice. So when it got close to my time, I went to the restroom and I'm out back and I'm stretching. The lady who hired me comes, Susan, she grabs me in my face, grabs my shoulders, and she goes, you are going to increase the energy in the room, aren't you? I was like, yeah, I just don't know if 90 minutes is enough time for all my content. That's what we want, content. You're not using those damn slides. Nope, I don't use slides. She said, oh, good. So here's the first lesson I learned as a professional speaker. Make and take your own time cards. Make them in big, black or red, whatever ink, but big, thick time cards. She said she would keep my time for me. So I said, okay. So there I am. I'm on stage. Things are going well. And she holds up the first one and she's across the room and she did it with a big pen. I couldn't even read it. So I said to her, I just right there on the stage, I'm like, I can't read that. And so she said 30 minutes. And I go, okay. And I thought, that's not right. So I got everybody involved in doing an exercise and I got off stage and I said, I have 45 minutes. We started late, remember? She goes, oh, yeah. I'll adjust the time cards. I get busy and I get going. Things are going well. Now she's at the back of the room standing next to my best friend who was doing video. And she held up another one. Now everybody laughs because they know I can't read it. There's about 53 people in the room, I think. And I said, I can't read that. Well, they spoke at the same time. Now, what I thought I heard was 3 minutes. And I'm thinking, 3 minutes? I said, give me 4 and I'll wrap this up. I did. Everybody's standing up and they're clapping. She makes a beeline and gets in my ear. She goes, I didn't say 3 minutes. I said 30 minutes. Sit them down and teach them something. They're getting credits. I'm like, hey, folks, this is awesome. We have time for Q&A. Got them all to sit down. Here's one interesting thing. As I was doing this in this last half hour, I said something and one of the ladies on the front row goes, is that another writer downer? I thought to myself, damn, these people actually listening to me. So there it was. And we finished up the 30 minutes. And here's the result of trusting in someone else's vision for me that I could be a speaker, right? There were 3 people in the room. 2 had heard me the week before at Kaiser. One of the ladies from Kaiser came up and she's German. She's a big lady, not fat. She's just this big German lady, very stoic. I don't think I've ever seen her smile. Nice lady. And she looked down at me. She's tall. She looked down at me. She goes, Carol, you were good last week at Kaiser. And I'm waiting.
Yeah,
but you were acting amazing today. I was like, ah. And the other lady that knew me that got me to do it at Kaiser said, you were so, it was a God thing. I'm telling you. She said, you were so totally in your element that last 30 minutes. But there I was, and somebody walks up to me and she says, my name is Jackie, and I'm the Vice President of Human Resources at American Express. And I want you to come teach that to my people. Do you have a business card? And I said, yes, I do. I said, do you have a card? And she said, no, I don't. Now, remember, I'm a salesperson. Right. Salespeople do what? They follow up. Yeah. Now, my first thought was what? It was the negative thought that I had to reframe. But my first thought was, I'll never hear from her again. And I changed that up. I said, this whole thing has been a God thing. I'm going to continue to trust in the vision. And if it's meant to be, it'll be. That resulted in me being hired 6 times in 2019 to speak and teach at American Express. Wow. Because I trusted this woman's vision that I was a speaker.
Wow. That's incredible. Incredible. What a wonderful story. It's amazing how, everything just feels like it just falls into place for you. And I'm getting it that, it's happening because you're just trusting, you're just knowing and receiving and accepting and being open to, what's possible. And I just love that.
Absolutely. And one day we'll get together and I'll just tell you all that. Let me tell you this real quickly. Here's a writer downer for everybody. We create as we speak. We create as we speak. And don't forget about that inside voice. And I'm not talking about when your parents said, use your inside voice. I'm talking about the voice that goes on up here, your inside voice. Yeah. So listen, the title of my talk at Kaiser on August 2nd, 2018 was leadership, navigating a successful course in the winds of change. 1 year later, I sold my house of 26 years and God saw fit for me to move 9 times in 18 months. Let me tell you, I know how to navigate a successful course in the winds of change.
Yeah.
Be careful what you speak.
So you asked for it, is what you're saying. You
Listen,
conjured it up.
that's another Maya Angelou. I don't know what I didn't know, but now I know.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. So note to everybody, that's a writer down, or,
Yep.
what you think and speak and feel is going to manifest.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So don't dwell on that negative, dwell on what you want to have happen and not what has happened if it's in the negative. So the title of our talk was 7 Steps to Having an Unstoppable Business. I know that you've already shared lots, but maybe you can give us the cliff notes of those 7 steps.
Absolutely. And I want you to write them down too. When I speak in front of an audience, I tell them what it is and they all have to go, and then they say it. Right?
Okay.
Because I want you to own them. Here's the thing, folks. I work with my clients on intentions.
Yeah.
You don't own a goal. A goal is way out there, but you own your intention every day if you so choose to.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
And that's where you can have the greatest impact.
Yes.
You'll get to the goal if you're managing and honoring your intentions. And that comes with conviction. So here's your first one. Number 1 step to have an unstoppable good business, say, I become the lion or lioness leader. I become the lion or lioness leader.
Okay.
Number 2, I create limitless opportunities. Empowering questions allow you to do that, by the way. Number 3 is I plan for profit. How many entrepreneurs are out there going, wait a minute, my business made this much money and I have nothing to show for it? Well, there's a big difference between revenue coming in and profit that you take home. Are you planning for profit? Number 4 is I build my momentum map. How many people are just stepping out there willy-nilly thinking, and what do? They chase all the shiny objects and then wonder why they're in the same place this year that they were a year ago, right?
Yeah.
Number 5 is I communicate with influence. I communicate with influence. Number 6 is I boost my sales. What's the number 1 problem for a lot of entrepreneurs? They hate sales. They hate sales.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I get my clients to completely reframe that. Sales, and the first part I got from Suzanne Evans, the second part is mine. Sales is a transference of inspiration. And my clients don't sell anything. They help facilitate people getting what they want through the art of influence. Big difference.
Yeah.
Big
Huge.
difference.
Love that.
And the last step is raise your game. And it has a subtitle because I love this one. It's how to become a professional athlete in your business.
Nice.
How to become a professional athlete in your business.
Oh.
And I built these by watching my clients over the last few years and seeing what I was doing, right? Your clients will tell you who you are with the results that you're getting. Because I kept saying, I don't have a formula. I work differently with every client. We work some in the same areas, whatever. But I began to realize that there really were some steps in place. Not every client goes through every one of those in order. They all start at number 1. That's why I gave you that attorney story, right? I'm a powerful CEO of a fast growing law firm. Everybody starts at number 1. Sometimes the other pieces, like a lot of times, number 7, how to show up as a professional athlete, is number 2, right?
Yeah.
So
I
that's
love that. So
that's what it's about.
Are these like your daily mantras? Do we wake up every morning and kind of read through that list as a reminder of our conviction to fulfill these? How do we put this into practice?
You could do that, but the bottom line is, I'm putting together a course to teach you all the sub things under each one of these. But that would be great if you got up and said it out loud and owned it as a mantra every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Taking ownership and reminding. I know for me, it's forgetting. I learn all these amazing things and then life gets in the way. I get busy and then I forget, so coming up with that daily practice to me would be a good thing to incorporate into that habit. of fulfilling our life's vision.
My commitment, I told you I was in that networking group based on Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. That is typed up. It's on my bed, and all of my I am statements are also typed up, and they're on my bed. It's the last thing I do before I go to sleep. I don't look at my phone after. I certainly don't look at the TV after. I don't talk. And it's the very first thing well, sometimes I have to get up and go pee, but it's the very first thing I do before I get out of bed.
Yeah.
Very first thing.
Yeah.
And another thing is to stay in gratitude. So I have this cool little rock. It fits right in my thumb. And each night after I do my things, I pick up my rock and I'm rubbing my rock. It's kind of an NLP thing, actually. And I think of all the things I've been grateful for that day. And then what is the number one thing that I was most grateful for? And I say that out loud and I say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I put the rock down and I go to sleep.
There's nothing more important than gratitude. I preach this a lot, of having a gratitude journal or just remembering to be grateful for everything. And for me, the grateful is in 3 sections. So I'm grateful for something that happened in my personal life. And I try to write down at least 3 things that happened in my personal life that I'm grateful for, 3 things that I'm grateful for in my professional life, and then 3 things that I'm grateful for of attributes, personal attributes that I have, of gifts that I can share to the world. And I love it because, it's a reminder that gratefulness is not just about business. It's not just about, getting our new home or whatever. Like it spans different areas, and that personal leadership covers all those different areas. And having that gratitude journal in those three different areas really has made a big difference for me.
Oh, I totally understand that. I did a 30-day gratitude challenge in June. And it was interesting. I got some feedback that said, well, aren't you grateful for your house? I never talked about my house. Aren't you grateful for your car? I never talked about my car. One of the things that really challenged people is I'm grateful for triggers, for getting triggers, because they teach us where we need to heal, right?
Yeah.
And there are 2 things I would say about all those moves in 9 months. There were so many lessons learned. God put me in places of leadership over other people that I would have never been in before. I learned that I am unbelievably flexible, which I would have not given myself credit for before, and I'm very adaptable. Both of those are very necessary to step up in leadership, right? In leadership.
Absolutely.
So when something comes, here's a great reframe for you, not just you, but the whole audience, right? When something comes up and you think it's an interference in your plans, I've had somebody ask me this. I said 2 things. They said, Carol, how are you doing this in all this chaos? And I said, well, I never called it chaos. But if you want to call it chaos, then I believe that God will allow chaos all around us so he can strengthen our core. I'm telling you, I may be in God's long-term personal development program, but in the last 20 months of all these moves and everything, my core and my faith is strong. But the other thing I tell people is when you look at something that pops up and you think it's an interruption in your plan, or it's an interference in your plan, I want you to reframe that and say, it's an invitation. Yeah. It's an invitation to learn something new. It's an invitation to do something different. It's an invitation.
I love that.
All those moves were an invitation for me to learn. What's the lesson? Where am I going next? My trust is strong. My faith is strong. I believe, everything happens for a reason. We say that. We don't like it though, but it's true.
It is so true. Absolutely. You have shared so many golden nuggets. I know I'm going to have to go back and watch the replay of this and take notes and really absorb a lot of what you have said, because it's just been one after the other. I so appreciate what you have brought to our viewers today, Carol. Thank you so much. And speaking of next moves, what is our viewers' next move? Where can they get more of you and benefit from all that you can do for them?
All of my social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram is at the Carol Boston. LinkedIn, for some reason, made me put at the Carol Boston Coaching. That's the only one that's different. So it's just the @ the Carol Boston. Come follow me on my business page. That's at the Carol Boston on Facebook. I'm live on my personal page. I have Carol's Courage to Confidence Corner. on Mondays and Fridays. And I have my Carol's Craft cocktails on Wednesday evenings at 5:30 Eastern. We have a ton of fun, but I've actually gotten clients from having a cocktail show, folks. What are you willing to step out and do? Because I always weave in a little bit of business. There's always, listen, you can make a business analogy from almost anything that you want. And I think I sent you the link for the first 3 people. When is this going to be? Is it going live right now?
It's live right now. And of course, everybody's going to be watching in replay mode as well.
Replay. That's right. Yeah, I wanted to give them a little bit of time. So for the first 3 people by midnight Friday night, that gives people more than 24 hours, #replay. They click on that link that I sent you and they book a $97 Snowmageddon call, right? I put it on my calendar like that. That's an 88% discount. It's called a clarity to cash call. You will get totally clear on what's gotten you stuck, and you will get the action steps you need to move you from where you are to where you want to go. I started doing this a few months ago, and let me tell you something. What I've learned is that I'm really, really good at quickly getting people into effective action to get immediate results. One of my clients had been wanting to be an entrepreneur for 35 years, read all the books, went to all the conferences. I got her into action in 24 hours. And now she's on a path and has a plan to give up her daytime job and fully own her own business. I had another client who grew her revenue stream 33% in 2 weeks.
Wow.
I had another one who did one of these Snowmageddon calls, and she emails me in 8 days and says, "Oh my God, I have to work with you." And I'm like, "What happened?" She goes, "I got 2 new clients in a week, and I got 75 people on my email list. Like that never happens."
Wow. That's incredible.
One of my new clients, you're going to die, 75 years old. Love this lady, 75 years old. And she had been in another very, very well-known coaches program. And so she did the $97 call with me. And she's like, "You poured like about 4 or 5 hours into this call, 90 minutes, right?" I gave her homework. We met again in 2 weeks to follow up on the homework. And she said to me, "That other coach used to scream at me and just say, 'You need to get into action. You need to get into action.'" This was an expensive program she was in. And she said, "You got me into action." She goes, "My daughter can't believe what I've done in 2 weeks." She says, "I like your style. I have to work with you." So it's taught me that I'm really good at getting people into the right action to get immediate results.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So for everybody, I just put into the chat the link, and it's a Calendly link. So to set up your appointment with Carol. And Carol, just to confirm, it's $97 for an hour, was it?
90 minutes. 90 minutes.
90 minutes for clarity to cash.
Yep.
Where Carol, it's like almost guaranteed there that you're going to give them tangible, actionable steps to get out and make money in your business. I love it.
That lady that I said grew her business 33% in 2 weeks, she was working on 4 revenue streams, right? Working on them. And I asked her to outline them for me and to put them in the order that she wanted them. So she gave them to me. We were on the phone 90 minutes. I asked a lot of questions. I got to know her really good. I said, "That one is number 4. I want you to put it at number 1. She's like, "Oh," I said, "Put it at number 1. And I want you to do da-da-da-da-da. And then leave number 2. The one that we moved from number 4 to number 1 is the one she grew 33%.
Wow.
It was the one she wasn't even going to take a look at.
Wow. That's awesome.
What else is possible, right?
What else is possible? Exactly. And sometimes we're in tunnel vision mode or afraid. In our jar, right? Or afraid to take that step, and the uncertainty of the unknown of what's happening in the future. So there's just so many fears that come up that prevent. And I hate to say it, but it is a lot of female entrepreneurs, but yes, and some men too, where there's just so much crap from our past that comes up, just like you and your dad, and it doesn't matter how many years later it comes up and haunts us. Yeah. Right. Well, thank you so much, Carol. I so appreciate you sharing all of this information. And you, the viewer, please take Carol up on her offer. It's an amazing offer for what you're going to get out of it. Go ahead and click that link and schedule an appointment with Carol and just watch your business soar. And for you also, watch me every Thursday. And for the AMPLiFY Business Edge Show, I'm Susan Friesen, your host. Thank you again, Carol, and we'll talk to you all next time.